Halo Combat Evolved is one of the most influential first-person shooters ever made. This is one of the most important games in my life. It was what truly started my love for video games. In this video, we will discuss each of the 10 missions that make up the campaign, ranking them in a tier list based on the following categories. 1. Story significance. How does the mission move the plot forward? How effective is the dialogue in cutscenes and during the level? 2. Level design. How compelling is the map layout, enemy placement, and variety of enemies? How difficult is the mission? 3. Tone and atmosphere. How effective are the soundtrack, skybox, color palette, and dialogue at creating a compelling and immersive environment? 4. Overall fun factor. What weapons and vehicles are available during the mission? Are there notable set pieces and moments? Are there multi-faction battles? 5. Replay value. Any Easter eggs to go back and find? Are there multiple viable options for encounters? We will complete this list in chronological order, beginning with Combat Evolved's first mission, the Pillar of Autumn. Right away, we are treated to a great opening cutscene that introduces the characters, provides context for the situation, and establishes the stakes without feeling forced. There's a sense of mystery and wonder, but as the tone of the cutscene becomes more intense, the music matches the pace, shifting to a more militaristic, percussion-heavy track as we prepare for battle. Rather than elaborate on the events of Reach and dry exposition, the game shows the power of the Covenant by having them kill the crew members of the Pillar of Autumn right in front of you, before you can fight back against them. The story is well established in Pillar of Autumn, and it excites you for the adventure to come. The level design is fairly rudimentary and nothing players haven't experienced before, even in 2001. There are simple gray corridors with brightly colored arrows on the floor that lead you from one area to the next. However, Combat Evolved's strengths shine even in this first mission. In the maintenance corridors, the player has multiple options for how to approach the Covenant waiting outside. You can take the direct approach, which leads you right into the middle of the fight, or you can sneak around the side passages for a more tactical approach. Even in the linear hallways of the Pillar of Autumn, there are multiple viable options for approaching some of the fights. The music in this mission is exciting and fills you with pride while you fight alongside the Marines, who spout entertaining combat dialogue to encourage you. The inside of the Pillar of Autumn is mostly gray and black, with some color interspersed here and there to guide you along. This may seem rather boring, but in the context of the next few missions, it prepares the player to be awed at what they find on the Halo ring. Chaos ensues on the Pillar of Autumn as explosions rock the ship. Cortana and Captain Keyes make announcements to the crew, and Marines flock to lifeboats in an attempt to escape. The tone and atmosphere of this mission works well as a first mission to set the stage. This mission is fun to jump into and play, however there is a rather limited arsenal available to the player, including only the pistol, assault rifle, plasma pistol, and frag grenades. And plasma grenades too on higher difficulties. The only enemies you fight are grunts and elites. This is understandable as it is the first mission and the sandbox should be introduced slowly. The overshield is introduced in the mission to observant players, and the frag grenade tutorial at the end of the mission is extremely well done, teaching the player the danger of explosives in tight spaces. The stairwell section is an important moment as well, as it teaches the player that positioning is important during combat, and that your shields allow you to take risks if necessary to put yourself in a better position. Overall, this mission is fun and a great tutorial, although it is somewhat limiting. The Pillar of Autumn includes several fun Easter eggs. You can shoot Captain Keyes and try to fight off an invincible squad of Marines. There's the Meg Easter egg, and also the hilarious poster board all in the same area on the bridge. In co-op play and on higher difficulties, the game skips the opening movement tutorial, which is very much appreciated for those wanting to get right into the action. The multiple routes in some of the corridors mentioned before allow for different playstyles, making this a fun mission to replay. Overall, I would rank Pillar of Autumn in the B tier. It lacks the variety of later levels and features a mostly linear design. It introduces the game very well and leaves you wanting more, which is exactly what a first mission should do. B tier is a comfortable place to put this mission. Let me know what you think. Level 2, Halo. The story in this mission does not advance very much. It begins with a crash landing on the ring and involves rescuing other survivors with a hasty escape from the Pillar of Autumn. The primary story progression that occurs in this mission is explained via in-game dialogue, where Cortana informs us that Captain Keyes has been captured. This sets the stage beautifully for the next mission, but this second mission of Combat Evolved doesn't provide much significance in the story, other than rallying survivors. The real genius of this mission lies in the level design. There are huge open spaces, mixed with small and large indoor environments, which provide an excellent sense of pacing throughout the mission. This mission was a landmark in first-person shooters back in 2001 because it was the first time that the player was really encouraged to explore in whatever way you want. The last 3 groups of Marines can be rescued in any order, and the dialogue from Foehammer shifts accordingly. This mission introduces Jackals and Banshees, the Needler, the Sniper Rifle, and the famous Warthog. Furthermore, Bungie put effort into explaining how enemies arrive in your area via these fantastic U-shaped Covenant dropships. The level design in Halo is fantastic. Everyone who's ever played Halo remembers the first time they stepped out of that life pod and took in the beautiful sweeping vistas of the ring. That skybox with the ring curving up into the sky remains an iconic image for gamers everywhere. The gorgeous greens and blues of this mission, the exaggerated hills and cliffs, and the intriguing soundtrack work together to create a sense of mystery and wonder as you explore the open landscape. This mission's tone and atmosphere are amazing. Driving vehicles in Halo Combat Evolved is great fun, and even better in co-op play. The hills provide excellent ramps to test your flight skills and hear the approving shouts of your Marine partners. The sniper rifle is put to good use in the wide expanses of this mission, and fighting alongside the squads you rescue is very fun as well. The first playthrough of this mission is unforgettable. Halo is one of the most replayable levels in the game, mostly due to the end section where the player can experiment with rescuing the Marines in any order. Overall, this is our first S-tier level in Combat Evolved. I considered putting it in A-tier due to the somewhat limited storytelling in this mission, but the atmosphere and level design are strong enough that I think it deserves S-tier. Let me know if you disagree. Level 3, Truth and Reconciliation. The third mission in Combat Evolved changes the pace from loud and bombastic to slow, quiet, and methodical. In this mission, we board a Covenant cruiser in order to rescue Captain Keyes. When we finally rescue Keyes, he explains the significance of the Halo ring to the Covenant, providing some motivation to the enemy faction, and raising the stakes of the overall story while providing us with our next objective, to locate Halo's control room. While this cutscene is very important to the story, the exposition delivered by Keyes feels somewhat forced. Former Bungie developers have stated that originally the mission would have delivered that information in a more organic form, but under time pressure they had to change it so that Keyes delivers the exposition in somewhat dry fashion. Let me know in the comments what you think the original plan was for the delivery of this information. The outdoors section in this mission is fantastic. Each area escalates in intensity, building up to the climactic fight at the gravity lift. The first section teaches the player the importance of stealth while introducing them to the sniper rifle if they missed it in the previous mission. The second large area gives the player some choice as to how to approach the encounter, and introduces the active camouflage power-up hidden behind some trees. The fight around the gravity lift introduces the player to Hunters, the mini-bosses of Combat Evolved. Each of these areas has something new to teach the player, and provides multiple avenues of approach. The indoor section that follows, unfortunately, leaves much to be desired. The repetitive corridors of the Truth and Reconciliation feel like a step backward from the open expansiveness of the previous mission, and this mission begins to drag. There are some highlights. The 3-floor hangar bay, bridge, and the brig are fun areas to fight in. However, the rest of the mission feels somewhat bland in comparison. While the level design is somewhat lacking in the back half of this mission, the tone is well done throughout. The music provides the perfect ambience for the dark, moonlit outdoor sections, and the sound design inside the ship really does sound alien, with all these beeping and whirring sounds, and who can forget the door opening sound effects? The mission gives the player a sense of stealth and tactical infiltration, which is the point. The purple hallways and cold blue steel of the Covenant ship contrast with the color palettes of the previous 2 missions, giving Truth and Reconciliation a sense of unique identity. This mission introduces night vision, stealth elites, golden elites, both with swords, hunters, shade turrets, and the active camo power-up. Unfortunately, there are no vehicles throughout this mission. As previously stated, the outdoor sections in the first part of the level are fun to play through, but the section on board the Covenant ship drags on for way too long. Fighting to protect Captain Keyes can be frustrating on higher difficulties as well. Overall, this mission is moderately fun to play, but overstays its welcome. Unfortunately, this mission is a step backwards from the previous mission. There are not many options for approaching encounters in unique ways, aside from the early outdoor sections. The active camouflage can make for some unique gameplay though, especially if you find the hidden one near the end of the mission. Unfortunately, this is not one of my favorites to replay, and I often find myself pausing a fresh playthrough of the game after this level. Overall, some of you will certainly disagree with this placement, but I'm putting Truth and Reconciliation in C tier. It does introduce several new enemies and provide some unique encounters, but the mission's pacing slows to a crawl after entering the ship. Of course, the first room inside the ship is memorable, and there are some bright spots in this level, but it feels like a more frustrating and long-winded version of the gameplay featured in the first mission. Level 4, the Silent Cartographer. This mission begins with an explosive start as the player charges up a beach with a group of Marines. Your objective is to locate a map room that will show the location of Halo's control center. But aside from locating your next objective, this mission is nothing special story-wise. The in-game dialogue does hint at Captain Key's next objective, but first-time players will likely not pick this up. Overall, the story in this mission simply pushes the player towards the next objective, nothing more. The Silent Cartographer is beloved by Halo fans everywhere for good reason. The opening drops you right into exciting combat, mirroring the beach landings at Normandy in World War II, which was a popular inclusion in first-person shooter games back in 2001. After clearing the beach, the player acquires a Warthog and makes their way to the Foreigner facility containing the map room, but they're locked out and must unlock the doors to continue. It seems simple, but the Silent Cartographer is so memorable because it allows the player so much freedom in the first 10 minutes of the level. You can choose to go straight to the security room and unlock the door before going to the main facility, or you can go the normal route. Furthermore, when inside the facility, there are several options for how to reach the map room. I'll bet that many of you still didn't know about this little shortcut from the top floor to the second floor. The Silent Cartographer proves that openness is possible in designing indoor areas. The tone of the Silent Cartographer progresses brilliantly. It begins with the triumphant blasts of Halo's main theme as the player charges the sunny beach. Inside the facility, however, the tone shifts. Bright sunny skies give way to a dark abyss, with the soundtrack shifting to reflect this change. An air of mystery surrounds the player as you move through the facility, not knowing what you can find. This is the first time in Halo Combat Evolved where the player might start to feel slightly uneasy. Then, after finding the map room, the soundtrack shifts back to a heart-pumping thrill fest as the player fights their way back to the surface. The tone and atmosphere of this level is brilliantly polished and has a beginning, middle, and end. The Silent Cartographer is just a blast. The opening section is one of the most memorable encounters in the entire series, and the fights throughout the level are well-paced, increasing in intensity as the player moves on. The level introduces the player to the rocket launcher, which first-time players will certainly appreciate because there are 4 pairs of hunters in this mission as well. Overall, the Silent Cartographer is one of my favorite Halo experiences to jump in and play. This is one of the most replayable levels in the series. The options for how to traverse the level, in addition to the multiple viable choices for weapon loadout and strategy, make the Silent Cartographer an excellent example of what the Halo sandbox is all about. 10 out of 10 would play again. This is many people's favorite Halo mission, and I have to agree with the majority on this one. Is the Silent Cartographer overrated? Let me know in the comments. Level 5, Assault on the Control Room. The premise of this mission is simple. Fight your way to the control center of Halo to prevent the Covenant from taking over. However, there are some subtle elements throughout the mission that add life to the story. When you first enter the snowy environment of this level, Cortana remarks about the possibility of Halo's designers wanting the installation to have inclement weather. This is a clever tease of what is hidden in the rig. Then the arrival of the stranded Fireteam Zulu demonstrates the dire circumstances which the human survivors find themselves in. Things are clearly getting more desperate, and this theme reaches a climax at the end of the mission, where Cortana discovers that something is terribly wrong, setting the stage well for the next mission. The outdoor sections of this level are awesome and so much fun to fight in. The wide expanses make vehicles a mandatory option in most cases, and there are plenty of vehicles to play with. This is the only mission in the game featuring a Scorpion tank, a favorite among many Halo fans. And the mission also introduces more Covenant vehicles, the Ghost and the Wraith. All weapons in the game are present at this point except the shotgun, and the player has lots of choice for how to deal with the encounters. Unfortunately, this is where Halo begins to see problems in repetitive room layout and map design. I counted 10 of these circular rooms throughout this level, most of which are found near the end, which absolutely kills the pacing of the mission. If you find yourself getting tired around 2/3 of the way through, it's probably because you're fighting in the same environment over and over again. It doesn't help that this is one of the longest missions in the game. While the rooms are the same and it does get repetitive, this mission does showcase how enemy placement and variety can make similar rooms feel different. This is the first snowy mission, which adds to the environmental variety and gives it a sense of unique identity. This mission gives the player the feeling that they are taking part in huge, climactic battles for the fate of humanity, which is what a good Halo level should do. This mission provides some of the best variety in the game. Every drivable vehicle is available to the player, and every Covenant enemy type is present, except for the Spec Ops elites and grunts. Who can forget blasting wraiths with a rocket launcher, sniping Covenant across the chasm, or killing sleeping grunts with the satisfying smack? The twin bridge fight is a cool moment that pushes the player to improvise as they are surrounded on multiple sides by Covenant forces. Not to mention the music in that section is fantastic.
Another memorable moment is when the player descends a frozen ice ramp, locating an isolated squad of Marines, but finding themselves trapped between hunters below and a Covenant dropship delivering fresh troops above them. The final fight at the control center is also memorable and ends the mission on a high note. This mission is one of my favorites for the gameplay alone. While this mission is long and repetitive at times, it does provide a significant amount of replay value in the outdoor sections. One of my favorite things to do in this mission is grab this hidden active camouflage near the end and quickly run to grab a Banshee on the land bridge before the elite hops in. If you've never done this, it's a fun challenge that makes the end of the level a little easier and shorter, not to mention it's the first opportunity to fly a vehicle in Combat Evolved. There's also a funny moment you can pull off right at the end of this mission. If you time it right with a Ghost or Banshee, you can splatter the Master Chief in the final cutscene, and what ensues is interesting to say the least. Assault in the Control Room is deserving of A tier. I absolutely love this mission, and it used to be my favorite, but I can't overlook the repetitive room design that hurts the pacing of the mission. Were it not for these 10 rooms, this easily would be a contender for S tier. Level 6, 343 Guilty Spark. This may be the most important mission in the game's story. The reveal of the Flood is teased so well through environmental storytelling, but more on that in a minute. The cutscene from Private Jenkins' perspective does a great job at building tension and making the players second-guess their decision to enter the dark facility in the swamp. You watch the team progress through the same rooms you passed, and the climax of the found footage does an amazing job at demonstrating the danger of the Flood. The fight to escape the Flood is intense, as it's revealed that the Flood are capable of firing weapons. Reuniting with Marines on the surface, the player again is exposed to the dangers of the Flood, as the Marines are picked off one by one. Finally, the end of the mission introduces 343 Guilty Spark himself and the Sentinels, adding yet another layer of mystery before the mission ends on a cliffhanger. The story in this mission is so well done, and it's always a pleasure to see people play it for the first time. The level design of this mission revolves around servicing the story. The opening area has very few enemies, only including grunts and jackals. This continues into the underground facility. Upon discovering the Flood, the reason for the absence of elites becomes apparent. They've all been transformed into combat forms. The underground area is a maze of similar rooms and hallways, which can be frustrating for new players, and many will get lost during the escape section. I think the repetitive and confusing rooms actually work well in this level to escalate the sense of panic within the player as they combat this new threat. The environmental storytelling in this mission is so well done that it deserves its own video. Broken radio communications emanating from a crashed pelican in the swamp explain that Captain Keyes has been captured. Mysterious figures can be seen watching the player on the horizon. Blood splatters the walls of the interior of the facility. A demented Marine screams in fear upon seeing the player. Mysterious green goop drips from the ceiling. Weapons and ammo lie everywhere. For the first time in the game, Cortana isn't available to provide comfort to the player. All of this creates an extremely foreboding atmosphere that foreshadows the Flood's appearance. The music that accompanies the Flood's appearance in this level has been etched into the minds of players as a signal for fear. Simply put, the tone and atmosphere in this level is nearly perfect. This mission may not have vehicles, elites, hunters, or an abundance of power weapons, but it does introduce the player to the final new weapon, the shotgun. This beast of a weapon is capable of putting down Flood combat forms in a single shot, and is an extremely satisfying weapon to use. 343 Guilty Spark also introduces the Sentinels as allies, a welcome addition. The twist of the Flood's reveal is amazing the first time around, and replaying this mission can be great for spotting all the details which lead to the reveal. Pay attention to all the crazed Marines' dialogue. Note the needler ammo, which doesn't exist anywhere else in the game. This is a fun mission to speedrun too, since there are a couple of jumps that, if pulled off correctly, can seriously reduce the time needed to escape the facility. Overall, 343 Guilty Spark is a difficult mission to place on a tier list. On one hand, it doesn't have many of the enemies and weapons that make up the Halo sandbox, and the opening can be somewhat slow to returning players. However, the importance of this mission and the story, the incredible tone and atmosphere, and the novelty of fighting the Flood all suggest that this mission belongs in S tier. Do you think I should have put it in A tier? Let me know in the comments. Level 7, the Library. The objective for this mission is fairly simple. Locate the index so that you can activate Halo and destroy the Flood. The process, however, is anything but simple, as you work your way through room after room of the Flood infestation. 343 Guilty Spark provides some interesting commentary on the Flood and the history of the Forerunners for those paying attention, but this dialogue can be easily missed due to the hectic fighting. Other than that, there's not much to this mission in story terms. Why didn't Guilty Spark just teleport Chief to the top floor where the index is? The level design for this mission is, frankly, terrible. The dark hallways and giant rooms filled with Flood can be interesting for a few minutes, But the problems quickly become evident when you realize that there isn't anything more to this mission, and it's also one of the longest missions in the game. There's no reason why this level should be so long. Even Bungie developers have commented saying they should have cut 30% of the level. The extremely repetitive halls, rooms, and doors make this mission a slog to get through. On the bright side, this mission does introduce Flood carrier forms, adding some variety to the combat compared to the previous mission. It also introduces Rocket Launcher Flood, the worst enemy in the game because they can kill you instantly without any predictable signal of their attack. Whenever I play this mission, I'm just looking forward to being done with it. The tone of hopelessness is actually pretty well done in this mission. The endless onslaught of Flood pushes the player to near insanity, and while this may be terrible level design, it does a great job at making the player fear the Flood and understand the consequences if they are allowed to escape Halo. While most of this mission is boring and repetitive to me, I do enjoy shooting the glass and making the Flood fall into the bottomless pits. The rooms where you get locked in with the Flood provide a significant challenge as well. Other than that, I don't have much to say about this mission's fun factor. If you like shooting hordes of enemies that charge you, like in Serious Sam, you might enjoy this mission. I think it's out of place in a Halo game. Going for the speedrun and deathless achievements on this mission was fun. However, now I will only replay this mission if I'm doing a full run of the game or if I want to test my mental stability. Overall, no surprises here. I'm putting the library in F tier. If you have a good reason why this mission shouldn't be in F tier, please let me know in the comments. I'm genuinely curious what you have to say. Level 8, 2 Betrayals. After 343 Guilty Spark, this is the next most important mission in Combat Evolved's story. We discover the true purpose of the Halo Ring, to defeat the Flood by wiping out all sentient life in the galaxy. We are betrayed by Guilty Spark, therefore we must betray him by foiling his plans to activate the ring. The actual objective of this mission is nothing special. Destroy 3 pulse generators to buy time for Cortana to find a way to destroy Halo. In the middle of the level, we are informed by Cortana that we need to locate Captain Keyes once again so that we can use his codes to activate the Pillar of Autumn's self-destruct sequence. We continue destroying pulse generators until we get a cutscene where Cortana uses Halo's teleportation grid to bring the Master Chief to Keyes. I always thought it would have been better to have Echo 419 pick up the Master Chief here so that it wouldn't be so jarring seeing her again in the last mission, but oh well. Many people have complaints about this mission's level design, and I agree with some of those complaints. This mission is simply Assault in the Control Room backwards, with almost all of the same recycled rooms. The difference this time is that there's cross-faction fighting between the Covenant, Flood, and now Sentinels, making some of these rooms much more interesting. The mission introduces the player to Spec Ops grunts, which carry fuel rod guns, and features more rocket launcher Flood than in any other mission. The grunts are not much of an issue, but the rocket Flood are the worst enemy in the game, and they appear so often in this mission. 2 Betrayals is long and exhausting, and late in the mission you're forced to walk across areas that would be much more enjoyable in a vehicle. This mission is fun and chaotic, but it can be tiring to play all the way through. The wind howls as you see Covenant fighting for their lives against the ravaging hordes of Flood. The nighttime environment of this level makes it distinct from the Assault and Control Room. Some of the areas feature random explosions, as the fighting across the ring has taken a toll on the mechanical systems. Also, the music in the final run section of this mission is excellent. It inspires the player to make one last push for that Banshee to reach the final pulse generator. The tone and atmosphere of this level is good, but it's not enough to distract from the repetitious level design. In terms of combat, this mission has some of the best and worst in the game. The fight at the bottom of the pyramid encourages the player to think on their feet to defeat the swarm of enemies. I like this fight a lot. Using the Banshees in the second large area is very fun, and we finally get to engage in a dogfight in the sky. The choice of watching or engaging in the cross-faction fighting is always entertaining. The final segment of this mission is extremely fun, with the wide expanse and many powerful weapons at your disposal, along with some ghosts to make the journey quicker. Unfortunately, this mission does have some problems. As previously stated, the repetitive rooms aren't the most exciting, especially having to do them again. There are also some serious difficulty spikes along the way, mostly due to the overuse of rocket launcher Flood in this mission. Every Halo player has been killed at least once by this guy. The repetitive design, coupled with the difficulty spikes, makes this mission extremely frustrating for some players, so I can't give the combat a perfect score here. While it can be exhausting and frustrating, for players wanting a bit of everything Halo Combat Evolved has to offer, this is one of the best missions to play. You get access to all weapons in the game, all enemies are present except Spec Ops elites, there are multiple vehicle sections, and the environment in the open areas allows for multiple viable options for players to enjoy. This is a fun level to replay in my opinion, although I don't always finish it. Overall, 2 Betrayals is a difficult mission to place because it has many pros and cons. I don't think it's bad enough to deserve C tier, so I'm going to place it in B tier. Let me know where you'd put 2 Betrayals. I know some people will put this in A tier or D tier, but I'm curious to know what you think. Level 9, Keyes. The story in this mission is well done. The opening cinematic features some exposition from Cortana about the Covenant's struggle to repair the Truth and Reconciliation and prevent the Flood from using it to escape. While she speaks, we get some shots of Covenant and Flood fighting in the darkness, showing exactly what she's talking about. In the first hallway, observant players get a chance to see what happened to Keyes. Throughout the mission, Keyes begs us to leave him, but the Chief and Cortana press on. When we discover Keyes has been turned into the Flood, Chief delicately removes his neural codes, and we make a daring escape from the ship via a Banshee. The story in this mission is great, but the gameplay leaves something to be desired. You already know I'm not a fan of the linear design of Truth and Reconciliation, and the same applies to this mission. Although the fighting in the dark areas below the ship has a great atmosphere and changes up the environment, for me it breaks the pacing of the mission. At this point I'm just trying to get to Keyes and make it to the last mission, and the section in the dark feels like a distraction to pad out the level's runtime. The indoor areas are reused again, and the same linearity that plagued the third mission affects this one too. It doesn't help that the Flood hordes rush you in these small hallways in seemingly limitless numbers. There are several areas which I usually just run past because I can't be bothered to deal with so many enemies. This mission does introduce one more enemy, the Spec Ops Elites, which finally make good use of grenades against the player. The Grunt's grenade throw was always fairly easy to avoid, but these guys pose a serious threat. One thing I do like about this mission is that at the end you can skip much of the fighting by simply dropping down to the Banshees below, assuming you have enough health. Overall, I'm not a big fan of this level's design. The tone of this mission is much better than the level itself. An incredibly desperate situation unfolds around you. Coolant leaks from the ship, fires have broken out inside, several doors are non-functional, and the Flood gather bodies to prepare their consumption. The music is dark and moody, and the Halo theme returns at the end when the Chief makes his escape. As previously stated, Keyes' transformation is teased at the beginning of the mission, and it's sad to hear him try to warn the Chief. I do like this mission's atmosphere. This mission doesn't have many memorable encounters. Jumping into the coolant was unique, fighting the Spec Ops Elites at the end is fun, and watching the cross-faction battles are always fun, but there aren't any fights in this mission that make me want to replay the mission. I don't usually enjoy replaying Keyes, to be honest. I'll do it for the story elements and for the ability to test the effectiveness of grenades in small hallways, but I usually speed through this mission, especially the ending. Overall, as you can tell, this is one of my least favorite missions in the game. I don't think it's as bad as the library, so I'm going to place it in D tier. Is there anyone who really likes this level? Let me know in the comments if you do. Level 10, The Maw. This is the climactic finale to Halo Combat Evolved. We return to the crashed Pillar of Autumn in an attempt to initiate its self-destruct sequence. We reach the bridge and Cortana initiates it, but 343 Guilty Spark appears and stops us. He provides us with some insight into his character, describing human history as our lost time. Cortana cuts his communication with us and we make a new plan to destroy the Pillar of Autumn. Chief makes his way to the engine room and uses grenades and rockets to destroy the Pillar of Autumn's engines, triggering a nuclear meltdown. As we make our way to the top of the ship, we contact Echo 419 and request her to pick us up. She nearly succeeds, but we see her shot down by Banshees right in front of us. We have no time to waste, however, so we rush to the hangar bay where a longsword fighter ship is docked. The Chief nearly makes his escape and takes a moment to watch the destruction of the Halo ring. We reflect on what we just went through, and the Chief takes a moment to finally rest. The story in this mission is excellent and engaging, with several twists and turns that keep it exciting. Although this level reuses areas from the Pillar of Autumn, it feels significantly different. The last time you were here, you only had access to a limited variety of weapons and enemies, and now there are Spec Ops Elites, Grunts, Flood of all types, and Sentinels thrown into the mix. Fighting through the burnt-out, destroyed ship is a blast, because you also have access to all the weapons in the game at this point. Everyone remembers the first time they spent a little too long in the armory and were attacked by invisible Flood. I wish they brought that back in later games. What a cool and scary concept. The engine room is a tough and fun area with many options for dealing with the 4 fusion cores. I like to crouch jump straight back onto the platform, but you can take the side passages too. The engine room is a blast, but who can forget the incredible climactic Warthog run at the end of this mission? Driving up and down these massive ramps, encountering multi-faction battles, slaloming the Warthog through the pillars, all the while explosions ring around you. There are reasons why the ending was redone for the finale of Halo 3. The tone at the beginning of this mission is solemn. A droning soundtrack plays as you work your way through the carcass of the Pillar of Autumn to the bridge. Cortana even takes a moment to reminisce about how far you've come. When a new plan is made to destroy the engines, the music shifts to a more determined militaristic track. As you fight your way to the engine room, the percussive beat keeps a lively pace. Broken doors, fire, and corpses can be found everywhere, and as you destroy the final fusion cores in the engine room, a choir signifies the magnificence of your accomplishments. Finally, in the last desperate attempt to escape before the engines blow, the Halo theme kicks in and the player is treated to one of the most iconic soundtracks in video game history. The tone and atmosphere of this level is befitting of the culmination of the story. It keeps your heart racing and immerses the player in the epic actions they participate in. This is one of the most fun missions in the game. I love grabbing a rocket launcher and shotgun for maximum destruction in the engine room. The Warthog run alone is worthy of making this mission a blast, but the indoor sections are fun too. This mission is a non-stop adrenaline rush with plenty of unique encounters to keep the player thinking. The Maw is an extremely replayable mission and one that I always look forward to. The engine room and Warthog run have so many options for how to complete them, it's fun to try different methods each time you play. This mission also has some of the best Easter eggs in the game. The food nipple grunt is a classic, and you have to beat it on Legendary to witness the amazing Sergeant Johnson cutscene. I'd play this mission again any day. Overall, the Maw is one of Halo's finest missions. I don't mind that it reuses assets from the first level. I think it's a fitting bookend for the game to see how far you've come. This amazing level is a great climactic finale for the game, and I can't rank it any lower than S tier. Here's my final ranking for every level in Halo Combat Evolved. In 10th place, the Library. 9th place goes to Keys. In 8th, Truth and Reconciliation. In 7th, the Pillar of Autumn. 6th, Two Betrayals. 5th, Assault in the Control Room. 4th place goes to 343 Guilty Spark. 3rd place goes to Halo. 2nd place goes to the Maw, and 1st place goes to the Silent Cartographer. So there it is, my evaluation of every level in Halo Combat Evolved. I'm sure that many of you will disagree with my rankings, so how did I do? Let me know what you think and post your thoughts and rankings in the comments below. Thank you for watching this far. Like, subscribe, and hit the notification button, and I'll see you in my evaluation of all the missions in Halo 2. Peace out for now.